Linda from Hoop Sisters, and this is Joy, one of the blocks from our stained glass collection. So now we'd like to show you what supplies you need to make the block and how to stitch it out.
The supplies you'll need to do your Joy block is you'll need to starch your fabric, when we like the Mary Ellen spray starch. You'll need a temporary spray adhesive to spray the back of the backing fabric to stick to the hoop. And you'll need a hoop scissors in order to trim the fabric while in the hoop. You'll need a way to move the design to your machine. And you'll also need a trimmer by George 2.0. For the fabric and the thread that you'll need your fabric 4. You'll need your backing fabric. You'll need a little scrap of some black lead fabric. And then you'll hoop your battleizer in the hoop. And threads, you'll need a Vanish Light thread, a water-soluble thread. You'll need an embroidery bobbin thread. And you'll also need thread D and a matching bobbin. For step number 1, you're going to hoop your battleizer and place your neutral thread in the needle and embroidery bobbin thread in the bobbin, and you're going to sew the placement stitch. For step 2, you're going to place water-soluble thread in the needle only, place fabric 4 right side up over the placement stitch, and the machine will sew a tack down. Just a little tip, you can spray that fabric with temporary spray adhesive if you desire. And then you're going to trim the little corner, leaving 1/4 inch. And you're going to place neutral thread in the needle only and put your lead fabric right side down, raw edges even, and the machine will stitch a seam. And for step 4, you're going to flip your lead fabric right side up and you're going to finger press. You're going to have water-soluble thread in the needle only, and the machine will stitch a tack down. And then you can trim the lead fabric, leaving about 1/2 inch on the outside of the block. And then you will spray your backing fabric the wrong side with temporary spray adhesive. Flip your hoop over and you're going to center your backing fabric over the placement line. Give it a little pat to keep it adhered. Put it back on the machine, and with the water-soluble thread, the machine will stitch the backing to the battleizer. For step 6, you're going to put thread D in the needle and also in the bobbin. If your machine has an automatic thread cutter, you're going to want to turn it off at this time. And by bringing your bobbin thread to the top before you begin stitching, it'll help with a nice, neater, cleaner looking back. And the machine will sew all the beautiful quilting. Now we'd like to show you how to do the Joy whole cloth version. To do the faux whole cloth for Joy, you're going to hoop your battleizer and you take it to the machine with neutral thread in the needle and embroidery bobbin in the bobbin thread, and you're going to sew your placement outline. Step 2, you're going to put water-soluble thread in the needle only. You're going to spray the side of your backing fabric with temporary spray adhesive and adhere the back centered over the placement stitch. And then you're also going to do the same with your fabric 1. Center that over the placement stitch, and you can use temporary spray adhesive there if you want to. And then you will take it to the machine and the machine will sew a tack down stitch. For step 3, you're going to place your quilting thread in the needle and also the bobbin. You're going to turn your automatic thread cutter off if your machine has one, and bring your bobbin thread to the top for a nice cleaner looking back, and the machine will sew the quilting.
Our completed Joy whole cloth block, and we're going to work on the trimming using our Trimmer by George 2.0, and we're going to assume we're going to put binding on these two corners. So any edges that receive binding, you need to trim the top, the backing, and the battleizer a 1/4 inch from the basting line. So we'll turn our trimmer over, we'll find our 1/4 inch line, place it on the basting line, trim through all layers, so you're totally removing everything. We'll do the next corner. Then on these two edges will be joined to the rest of the quilt. So what we'll do on these, and this is just for the whole cloth, we'll turn back the top, put your trimmer metal edge up to it, trim off the battleizer and the backing on both sides, any side that'll be joined to another block. So then on these two edges we have to trim just the top layer. So we're going to trim 3/4 inch from the basting line. That's why I have my highlighter tape on my 3/4 inch line, because when you're trimming a lot of these blocks, it's really nice to find that line quickly. So I placed it on that black 3/4 inch line, which helps a lot working with my black fabric too, because I can find it quickly. So now I'm trimming just the top layer. So here we have our completed whole cloth Joy block, totally trimmed. These two edges for binding, and these two edges are for joining together. Here's our pieced Joy block with just our little accent corner, and we're going to trim it so we can use it in our quilt. We're going to use our Trimmer by George 2.0, and we're going to start by finding the two sides that are going to be where the binding goes. Any edge of your block that is going to have binding attached to it, you're going to trim it 1/4 inch from the basting line. So we'll turn our trimmer over, line up our 1/4 inch line, trimming through all layers, the top, the battleizer, and the back. And then these two edges will be joined to other blocks. So we're going to pull back the front, take the metal edge of the trimmer and push it up to the basting line and trim off just the battleizer and the backing. So the back will now look like this. What we have left to do is to trim the front edge off 1/4 inch past the basting line for our seam allowance. So we'll line up our 1/4 inch on the basting line. So here's Joy totally trimmed. These two edges will be joined to other blocks, and these two edges will get binding.